Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's a Squirrel Saturday, and do I have a fun deck cooked up for you? We're calling this the Carryover Perfected deck. I know a lot of you have seen these All God decks, All God with Nilfgaard, All God with Precision Strike, adding value to Mahakam Volunteers and to Brocklon Sentinels. And I saw those decks and thought to myself, can we one-up them? Can we make them better than they currently are? So here we're using Oneiromancy, Heatwave combination. Again, you guys know I don't love it, morally speaking, but it does some great value for us here. You could run Forest Protector here. I'm choosing not to, purely to make the play of a Heracrax a little bit easier. So basically the goal here is to get All God, a Heracrax, Phoenix out, all round one, force out your opponent's biggest unit. It's especially great against monsters when you can get Ikarin, because it requires a deployability to get the armor, so it just automatically disappears forever. Not forever, I guess they can eat it with Osriel, but anyway, still great play. And then we use Dunka and Hawker Smugglers onto Gord and Skags. Skags being the preferred use here to just get crazy value. Isengrim's Council gets us a guaranteed Dwarf, which can be helpful for round 3, especially after you've played Novgradian Justice. But it's also really great to get an extra 2 boost onto Skags, which does damage equal to the amount he's boosted. And that's why we also carry Hawker Smugglers here. So we're basically just getting these guys out, getting that boost to hand, giving up round 1, and then going into a nasty round 3 where we're just bringing the pain. I'd really like the Vrihid Dragoons. Road movement is really clutch, especially against Skellige with on-crate longships. I found them to come in very handy. Pact is nice for a good boost. Just don't use it on Phoenix. Otherwise it'll get doomed, it won't go into the graveyard, and you have problems because it won't get resurrected. The biggest things you run into with this deck, it has a lot of thinning with the Volunteers and with Sentinels. And so you get good draw consistency by the time you get to round 3. But if you miss Oniro, a Heracrax, or All God round 1, which I have missed all 3 of them, which is just really extremely bad luck. But if you miss all 3 of them, you're in a bit of a pinch. You do want to get a Heracrax probably as the most preferred. All God is fine if he comes out second round, because you can still put that on to your Volunteers or onto Gord or Sheldon, and then the Sentinels, and get those all out round 3. Nice thing about this leader is you kind of get to target them when and where you want them exactly. But this deck works really well because people kind of play around things like Shiru, expecting that to come out at them. But it's not in here. Okay, so the bricks for sure are, I prioritize putting in Volunteers first, and then the Sentinels. So here we had 3 cards that were bricks. I'm going to put the Sentinels in. And the reason for that is because you can just target really, really well when these Volunteers come out. So here we did get All God to hand. So I'm going to go for All God onto Volunteers. And probably Dunka as my other option. But Phoenix is also a good use case here if you want to make the point play for round 1. Because we are going to use a Oneiromancy to pull out a Heracrax, who is going to pull out Phoenix. I want to get out a Heracrax pretty quickly in the event that the opponent is playing a Lippy Flip deck here. Lippy looking specifically for Ceres to generate a Shield Maiden. Often the opponent will go for it using Oneiromancy, but she's typically the highest provision cost unit in the deck. So we would force her out prematurely. She would not generate the Shield Maiden, which makes it so the deck falls a little flat in several places. If we see that play made first, then instead we'll prioritize Hawker Smugglers and stuff like that for full value. Haymane Protector going to Ranged Row tells me instead that this might be a Warriors deck, so we'd be forcing out likely a Hemdall, Wild Boar, or Harald on Crate, all of which would be decent options for us. Right now, though, I think, like I said, we do need to get All God down at some point. We're going to start with Hawker Smuggler, just so we're getting some hand boost. I do have a lot of units here, but I really want this to go to Skags most of all. But Sentinel is also great, as well as Gord, All God and Vrihedd Dragoons are not as helpful here. We don't have any Treants, so the Nature's Rebukes don't find the extra 2 boosts from boosting up Treants, but they are great removal tools. Otherwise, you could add in some other like engines, like Treant Boar. Certainly one option you could use. This is an interesting play here. I think the opponent is likely going to start working on damaging these Harald Pals. And going for this boost on the Hound Snout to make sure he gets full value out of those. Seeing that, we're just going to kind of get the plays that we need to get going. Let's start with All God first. And here we're going to go for Brocklon Sentinel and both Volunteers, since those are going to get tutored out later in other rounds. And instead, just be a little bit patient. We're going down, only down to 7 cards. The opponent will likely go down to 6. Just waiting for them to make these plays. So here we're able to get them. You do want to try to suss out some synergy from the opponent. Here we see, you know, the Drum Berserker coming down. Harald Hound Snout being a 9 provision cost card, so I'm happy to see at least Harald Hound Snout coming out first. Now if I want to, I can just go ahead and remove this Berserker, but I'm actually happy to let him transform into Bear Abomination, since the carryover value is important to me, and he is going to be kind of like a reverse carryover value. Now I could use Vrihedd Dragoon to push off this Haymay Protector, but stuff like Dagger, and the fact that I only have 1 Vrihedd Dragoon makes me a little anxious to make that play. So instead we're going to go for Oneiromancy. We're going to make sure we get this Phoenix play going. So we'll get a Hero Quacks out, play it to melee. It's going to force out our highest provision card, force out the opponent's highest provision card. So Yrden here just totally bricking for the opponent. And we now have Phoenix set up to carry through the next 2 rounds through one, starting in round 1, then reappearing as an artifact round 2, and as an artifact again in round 3, so long as we trigger that artifact in round 2. And then whenever you trigger that artifact, it's going to bring back another Phoenix, or the same Phoenix, however you want to think about it. It's up to you to determine how you interpret that. This Svalbard Priest might just be the lowest card our opponent has in the hand. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. It is a decent engine, and I would have tried to preserve that if it was me. Here we've missed out Hawker Smuggler on boosting the cards we really want to, so here's praying we can get a Skaggs boost from the Hawker Smuggler, but instead it just keeps going to our Brocklon Sentinels. You know, that is what it is. But we got the opponent to play a couple of decent cards, certainly some of their best synergy plays this last round, and we are now able to go over into the next round with some decent carryover. We get Oneiromancy, looking for Novigradian Justice. Circle of Life works well as well. We'll put back Brocklon Sentinels. I don't know how much value Spores is going to get for us. Certain decks like Thrive, I just know immediately, like a Fruit of Gineorchia, Fruits of Isgeath, I know that we're going to get really, really good value from that Spore, so I will keep it in hand. But Skellige is probably the least boosting of all the decks, right? Where like the Great Swords now take damage and then are healed, not boosted. Dagger would be the one notable exception, but it's pretty much just Dagger. And like I said before, that's why we're carrying this Vrihedd Dragoon, so we can deal with him however we want to. So we're going to wait to see what the opponent commits here. Obviously the Phoenix Hatchling, this is the artifact that we do need to trigger. Krathy Heatwave could come down, erase this from the game. That's usually a smart play to make round 1, because it is essentially 12 points of value. 4 points round 1, 4 points round 2, 4 points round 3. But if you have won round 1 and you don't really care all that much, sometimes it makes sense to just be a little patient and not worry about it too much. So here I have several cards to spend, so I'm actually going to go for Circle of Life onto this Drum and Shield Maiden, and I'm going to target Dunka. This just puts Dunka out of range value-wise from stuff like Stunning Blow and Giga Scorpion Decoction, since she now has 6 points of value plus 1 armor. So I can go ahead and drop her down onto melee row and start racking up some of those boost points. Really critical for Sheldon Skaggs. But I'm not in any rush to kind of make a lot of plays here. The opponent is down a card from us, so we're just going to kind of be patient, wait to see what they opt to do. And we can make up a lot of value with either our leader or using Novigradian Justice with Oneiromancy. And if I can tighten this round down as much as possible, that means that I can get some like really good value because of the carryover in just 3 cards. I can get incredible value. So one good example, like a 14-point Sheldon is going to do 8 points of damage and sit and plop down on the board with 14 points. Gord right now is just boosting himself by 2, but we have lots of different boosting cards here. We'll keep Isengrims for round 3 and put one of these dwarves back. I do need to start getting some engines going, but I'm just going to deny value to the opponent here. Again, we can make a lot of this up. So right now we're sitting at 6 points. We trigger this, we'll go to 10. So we just have to make up 9 points of value. And if you recall, our Mahakam Volunteers are each 6 points. So I'm hoping here to see the opponent make some more tempo play and then jostle myself back on top. But I think even if they don't make that big tempo play, now we might be doing that just so we can go a card up against the opponent. But there you saw me removing this Fallbot Priest for 2 reasons. One, it is an engine, and it's getting on net 1 point per turn. Of course, it is damaging a card, but there are synergies with that, right? So seeing this Drone Berserker come down, a Haymade Protector would be something that would make sense. But I'm pretty happy with this play. So Dunka right now still has that boost. We're gonna go ahead here and use Dryad's Crest. That's gonna give us 3 vitality as well. Skellige just doesn't have many poisons unless they are running a non-devotion deck, which they are with Knickers. I'm just not sure how much value that would be. And here we see the opponent go ahead and go for the pass. So they're at 28. I'm going to trigger this Hatchling, and we're going to just bring out our Novigradian Justice. We do miss out here on Oneiromancy for round 3, which is a little unfortunate. But we make up the points necessary to get over the opponent. And because we are over them, I'm actually going to let Dunka sit and continue generating hand boost onto one of these 3 cards, just because that is so helpful for the next round. And here you just see just crazy value that we've generated. A 7-point Vraihi Dragoon and a 6-point Gord. Unfortunately, Sheldon Skaggs still missing out on all that value. So that being the case, Sheldon's the one we want to put back into our deck, but this Brocklon Sentinel also needs to get back in there. Oh, okay, so we have a bit of a tight spot. Isengrims is going to be a brick for us, and we really don't want that to happen. So here we do have the unfortunate circumstance of bricking into multiple cards. Not a whole lot we can do about it. So we're going to put Sheldon back just because of Isengrim's Council. Now, I could use the Hawker Smuggler for value onto Sheldon, but I'd rather get kind of the guaranteed 2 point. Actually, let's go ahead and put Gord back, and we'll pray for some of that boost. So here we're going to just go ahead and start with Hawker Smuggler, and just pray we can get some of this boost onto Sheldon Skaggs. So unfortunately, Brocklon Sentinel is now... we can either use it with the leader ability or from our hand. So this one is bricked a little bit. It's a little bit better if we can schedule that to come out all with the leader ability, especially since Precision Strike allows us to get that onto a 5-point unit with a lot of certainty. But that being the case, here we just kind of need to generate value, and we're going to start out with our Vraihi Dragoon. Obviously, I would have liked to save this for a dagger, but we have Heat Wave, so if that becomes necessary, we can go ahead and get at that in that other way. We were able to get 1 boost to Sheldon, Would have been better if we would have had 2 boosts with Isengrim's Council, but we still get gored this way. It is a guaranteed draw since we have no other dwarves, so we have some flexibility there. So here we're just going to erase this Covenant. I don't really want to have to deal with getting around it, and this is just an easier way of playing. The Heat Wave works really well there. Now you could save it for a higher point play, but we don't have any Purifies, and this reset would just be useless trapped behind that Defender. And the Covenant of Steel is probably the worst. Obviously it's gone now so you can't see it, but it's probably the most difficult to deal with for the for the reason that it regenerates armor after you damage it down to 6. So you kind of have to kill it all at once, otherwise it just keeps getting its health back. You know, it's otherwise the weakest of all the defenders, with the only exception I'd say of Fifion being hard countered by Morgthorg, Heart of Terror, since he only has 1 hit point. Alright, so here I have to kind of decide what I want to use. I'm thinking I'm going to use this Broccolon Sentinel from my hand. We'll keep the other Sentinel for some other value later, but here we'll just go for 2 damage. We go for the Sentinel. We'll do this to melee row. Kill off this Scald and get out our other Sentinel. So here you see all that carryover value from All God and the hand boosts really coming into play. So this one received the hand boost, and then this one received the 2 points from All God. We do need to get out these other, the Spores and the Nature's Rebukes. But we can get down Sheldon. He's only going for 1 damage. If we just need to make a point play, Sheldon is not the worst of all the options. But here I'm happy to trade Nature's Rebuke onto this Handmade Protector. I know he's value later on, so we're just going to erase him. And we have 3 more points of damage from our Precision Strike. It'll go do 1 damage ping, and then it'll spawn a Sentinel, and that will do 2 damage. So if it gets a death blow, it summons all the other ones from the deck, which is why we keep them in deck. But since we got 1, bricked it to hand, you know, it's just going to be whatever we find most value on. Okay, so here my Spores actually finds value on my own units, which I'm happy to use. It's a 3-point play. Obviously not fantastic, but it's better than nothing. And it also puts it out of range, stuff like Blood Eagle. So, you know, I think it's a good counterplay that we can use there. Now, the last 2 plays are going to be Sheldon Skaggs and Isengrims onto Gord. Gord coming out for a hefty whopping, right now, 6 points plus 9, and we're going to be playing 1 more special card, so it'll be 6 points plus 10 plus 2. So it's going to be an 18-point play. So here I'm going to do something a little tricky. I'm actually going to go ahead and play Sheldon. We're going to damage one of these Fanatics by 1. And then we're going to use a charge to damage it again. It's going to transform. We'll play his range, then we'll damage that other Bear Abomination. So now if the opponent wants to generate value from this Fanatic, he's either going to need to put something between Totem and Bear Abomination, or damage this Bear Abomination by 2, which nets out to the same total value. So really kind of skewering the value on Svalbard Totem, which for those of you who watch my videos and who join me on Twitch who love Svalbard Totem is just yet another reason why I don't love it. You can just skewer people and skewer the value on the card. Here, though, the opponent could use like the Build Carl there and get the damage points from that. Certainly one option they could use with the Totem to make sure that they're not losing value, but you do have to use all of these leader charges to proc the 6-point Bear Abomination. So opponent there having to make some other difficult choices. So here we're going to just transform the Phoenix Hatchling and we'll go for our Gord. You know, Heat Wave is still going to be problematic, but we don't need to worry about Yrden since we already got that out round 1. Yrden would have been the hard counter to our deck, seeing as this Gord is now boosted by 15 points, giving us the clear edge over the opponent. So we'll have to see what their final play is. Newt the Callous is an interesting play. He's going to do 12 damage. And then this champion can go ahead and consume a unit to make back some of that value. But it's just really not all that awesome. So here, sorry, he plays for 12 total points, 6 himself, damages the unit by half its value, and then does that damage to an opposing unit. But just here, as you see, not enough. The opponent just netting out to 0 points there, but he can consume that other unit and get value that way. But I think, as you've seen, this is a really fun deck. We even missed some draws, and we're just able to put up some strong pressure. And these Lippy Flip decks, I don't think this was quite a Lippy Flip deck, but it's really close, are still a lot of value. Ursine Ritual able to pack in a lot of characters and a lot of points, but it relies on that Yrden play, and we are able to just cut that out of there. Yrden doesn't require initiative, and it is an 11 provision card, so it was really expensive. A big carry that the opponent was planning to use later on with the Oneiromancy. We were able to just eliminate that. Round 1, no questions asked, do not pass go. And that works out really well for us. So I really do like that Quack's play. It is kind of a traditional mill play if you're used to the mill decks from Nilfgaard. So here we get a lot of the cards that we like to have for carryover. We're first, which gives us an extra mulligan. So we'll put the Sentinel back. Volunteers goes back. And now you do have a difficult choice here with the Quacks. I'm a gambler. You guys know I love to just I love to get the perfect plays, and sometimes I suffer because of it. But seeing as I also don't have Sheldon, I'm going to be a little risky here and go ahead and put the Phoenix back. Unfortunately, we do miss a Quacks, which means we won't get Phoenix through all 3 rounds. I could have kept him. You know, that's a choice I've elected to make, and I'm just going to have to sit with. Deadeye Ambush is not really great at removing big units. So here what I want to do is actually just get Hawker Smuggler down. So actually I have a couple options here. So Hawker Smuggler is going to boost any unit in my hand. All God is a neutral card, and so because of that I'm actually going to get... I actually could put Dunka down to guarantee boost to Hawker Smugglers or Gord. But since it's just All God, and because I don't have my Dryad's Crest in hand, I'm going to save Dunka. Now I can use Dryad's Crest with my leader ability and those units, but I'd like Dunka to come down here and be pre-boosted, and she's now just out of range of like a Nature's Rebuke, so the opponent would have to use a Heat Wave to remove her, which is something they could do, but it's kind of a really tall spend to erase a 7 provision unit. But notably, Dunk is also like really quite good in assimilate matchups because the opponent is unable to convert this value. Like if they were to make a bribery card play onto her, it is only a random Scoia'tael unit. Whereas again, these Hawker Smugglers are any unit in hand. So here we're gonna go ahead and play Dunka and just start generating all this value. Now, these are 2 boosting cards. You might say to yourself, "Oh, you don't have Sheldon Skaggs in hand." Yeah, that's true. Unfortunately, draws are draws, and I can't do much about it. I don't know what else to tell you there. Like, would I have rather had a different play? Absolutely would I. But, you know, we're doing what we can. You guys know I shoot these videos in real time, in real life, so my wife's receiving a call, so that's what's going on in the background. But you're welcome to enjoy the sonorous sounds of real life. So I think the opponent here going after Dunka, attempting to remove her with like a Nature's Rebuke, you know, that's fine, honestly. I just have to decide how much I value this hand boost. 1 hand boost versus 3 damage for me is actually not so bad. I actually am okay with that, and it forces out a removal this round that works well for me. So here I'm going to go for Brocklon Sentinels and 1 of the Volunteers. You know, we'll go for the one that isn't a premium card, just so it doesn't feel so unloved. The one downside about this deck, I would say, is you do have to make these future plays, if you will, these hand boost plays and everything else to such a level that you maintain a point advantage over the opponent. Otherwise, they'll just dry pass and force you into a sticky situation too. Now, I do here have a 4-point gap. And I think I'm going to push this just a little bit more since I have this Hawker Smuggler. So here I'm going to opt for a Circle of Life. Now, I will point this out. So if you damage an enemy unit by 3, you get a boost a random Scoia'tael unit in your hand by 2. If it's a death blow, you get a Picket. But in this deck, I have Gord and I have Hawker Smuggler in hand, and that's it. So it's going to go one of those 2, and I'm fine with either one. We're just going to hit the miner there. The opponent here has to make a 7-point play. You know, Elias would fit nicely here. You get to generate a lot of value off of destroying a 1-point card. But I'd be happy to see a premature Elias at this point. And now I'm just kind of making my decision on what to play next. So, again, Sheldon Skaggs is now one of 3 dwarves, so I do need to get out Novigradian Justice. The question is when and where do we want to do that? The opponent here getting down some value. I'll also say if you want to try to get like premium consistency with your deck, you can just go ahead and use your Precision Strike Leader charges round 1. No questions asked. That can work rather well. It's just kind of up to you. Here, I'm still getting this hand boost. The opponent hasn't made any big commitments this round, so I'm just going to continue with this Nature's Rebuke. And I'm happy to get out Novigradian Justice this round because it's going to get me some draw consistency. And I do like this hand boost because I'm going to need some point play next round to effectively use a Heracrax. Once again, just missing a Neuromancy, a Heracrax in our draws. But otherwise, I'm actually very, very happy with this. You know, I get my carryover. I haven't spent any of my tempo. I get crazy, crazy value in pre-boosted units that I'm able to just carry over into future rounds. Yeah, this is working out actually really well for me. There's the Heracrax we're looking for. We're going to put Mahakam Volunteers back. And we are at 8 cards, so I'm just going to sit here, and I'm just going to play a Heracrax and kind of call it good. I'll get 10 cards for round 3. Phoenix will be out of my deck and onto the board. Would I have liked Oniro? Absolutely. But I kind of have everything else I really want. The other thing I could do this round, depending on what this pulls out... wow. The opponent has everything in their hand. The highest provision unit in the deck was Ailerin, which is a targeted brick, right? You don't want to have this in your hand. So I'm just anticipating the opponent kind of has everything. So that kind of makes me wonder, all right, should I contest this round? Should we go to another one? And the biggest reason I'm leaning to going to another round is just because Hawker Smuggler is going to benefit from boosting specific units for an entire round, and I would really like to get Sheldon if possible. So the question is what I want to do this round to try to, you know, run up the points against the opponent, if anything at all. So here I need to make some big plays if I want to get the opponent to keep committing. They really haven't spent anything here. A 4 provision unit in Bowman, 5 provision Thunder, 4 provision, 6 provision, 4 provision, right? So we have spent significantly more than the opponent. 10 provisions, 6, 5, 5, 7. So we've spent quite a bit more than they have. So I kind of have to decide, okay, how willing am I to go into a long round? And not very, because they are going to use these leader charges with Vernwaziel and Isengrim. They had planned to tutor out this Ailerin at just the right time. So all of that being the case, here I'm looking to go for Novigradian Justice. Not just for the point play, but also the consistency. So I really don't want to break into these. As you guys saw last game, breaking into some of these units is really not the preferred mode of playing in a certain specific round. So I do also need to make a decision here with Hawker Smuggler. Do I want to carry them into the next round, or do I want to play them now onto the gourd for guaranteed value? And that's kind of a tough choice, to be honest with you. I don't know if I'm going to get Sheldon. I could get Oniro, which gets me Sheldon out of the deck, but that's not helpful because I need him to get pre-boosted. We probably should have used Allgod to pre-boost Sheldon. That wasn't the most genius play we've made. We can't all be geniuses. That would have guaranteed 2 additional points of boost onto him and 2 guaranteed damage. Vernwaziel here is really interesting. I can't be sure what the opponent's goal was there. Here I want to go for one more tutor play, so we're going to go for our leader charges against this Vernwaziel. And the reason for that being we're erasing an elf, but the other thing that we're doing here is we're preventing Vernwaziel's commandos from getting value with mixed company. So they have to be with only elves to get those perpetual boosts if the opponent elects to play them. Otherwise, they lose some value. So here we want to go for Dryad's Caress, I think, since we now have Dryads out. We're not going to get them next turn. This is worth 3 points of boost, plus an additional 3 points of continued vitality. So here we just are generating some really good value, forcing the opponent to make some plays. And if we continue to see some mediocre tempo, we're just going to get out of this round, carry this into the next round. We have our Heat Wave. I'm anticipating a scenario play here. If they don't go for scenario, there's going to be like at least one big unit that we're going to be looking at. And we can just use Heat Wave on that big unit. I will say I do love my Elves decks. Okay, this is perfect. So we're going to skewer Radea and scenario here. Where Radea is coming down with the Unshaded Saber. They're going to play out the scenario. Heat Wave would not find much value against that. All that being the case, we're just going to pass here. No reason for us to stick in this when we have a lot of good stuff to carry in the next round. And the Unshaded Saber is going to play for 4 points of value, so they're going to 26. No questions asked. And I'm guessing here they were hoping to play the scenario with Isengrim. They still commit scenario so that they don't go a card down. This is going to generate a Vernozil Commando, who's going to take that boost. And this is why we killed Vernozil, is because Radea is on the board, so she is not going to get that boost. This is also a little bit of a strange play here from the opponent. And if I was them, I would have played one of these Deadeye Ambush charges. I think this is a little bit of a tilt here. Okay, here they go. I was going to say, they really, if they're going to expend the scenario to match me in points this game, they really need to make that play. Typically, had Vernozil stayed on the board, this commando would have gone up in value, and they could have just passed. It would have gone up by 2 points. Although I will say, with notwithstanding the vitality on my Hero Quacks. So anyway, so that's why we killed Vernozil, for anyone who was wondering. That's a card that doesn't do anything. Oh, yes, it does. Okay, so here I can get Skags and boost him with Isengrims for 2 points, but I'd rather use Isengrims on Harald. This is just fantastic. I'm quite happy with everything I'm seeing here. Spores and Dryad's Crest are really going to lose value. Dragoon, though, might actually be helpful for us. So I'm actually going to put Pact back, and we're going to go for Dragoon here. We don't get him, which is a little unfortunate, but Dryad's Crest is still at least a Purify with a 3-point boost, which is better than nothing. Now here we just want Hawker Smuggler down. The opponent is used Vernozil. I think Yaven's going to be the only way they can deal with it, and they're going to have to fill up an entire row to get value with Yaven. We only have one unit in our hand, and that's Sheldon Skaggs. Oh, I had forgotten we got Oniromancy. So we have Oniro, so we can use that for Brighthead Dragoon or for Spores. Looks like it's going to be Brighthead Dragoon to keep this Hawker Smuggler on that row. So here we keep it on the row. We're just going to continue feeding boosts to Sheldon Skaggs. Regardless, Sheldon is going to find most value now. We've already got him boosted by 2. That's as much as we would have gotten from Isengrims. We don't even have to get a kill with Circle of Life. We just need to hit something. And the opponent is going to give us plenty of targets. Deadeyes will probably be typically the normal target when you're up against the Deadeye Ambush deck because of Vernozil and the threat that they pose. Here you just, you kind of want to just hit something. If you can remove it, all the better. Isengrim's likely going to be the other play where he's going to boost up all the elves. Since we're seeing Vitality come down on this Neophyte, we're denying not just 3 points of value, not what would be 4 points with an Isengrim play, but all the way up to 6 points with that Vitality on him. So right now the Circle of Life looks quite nice. We're going to boost this Sheldon Skaggs, and now Sheldon just continuing to go up, ticking up in numbers. And again, Sheldon's likely going to be the last play we make. We're actually going to play Gord beforehand, and that's just because we'll have already been through all of these special cards, and it won't be necessary anymore. Waiting to get full value out of this Nature's Rebuke. I'd like to remove something. I don't know what it'll be, but yeah, this Neophyte does Neophytes are the classic target for Elios. If you haven't seen my decks, just go watch them. They'll show you how you can play Elios and Elves. They are probably my first great and true love. One thing I will say here too, this Heat Wave is a little bit of a tilt at this point. But none of these cards are as good as it is, so we're still keeping it. I guess Pact is 6 points of boost, but Sheldon Skaggs is going to need to get his axe into somebody's knob, and that's likely going to be Elias since he's the highest unit. So we're just going to have to make a decision on Heat Wave later on. So here, though, we're just going to go for Caress. We're not going to get a Dryad out, so this is just falls a little bit short. It's a little bit clunky. Typically, we'd like to see that Vitality, but I'm not anticipating poisons. If they were going to come down, I would have expected them much earlier onto this Hawker Smuggler. I feel like I'm talking very, very fast this video, so if you feel like this was too fast, post that up in the comments. But if you like this video, shameless plug, please like, please subscribe. I just, I'm trying to churn out stuff that I think you guys would like. I think this deck is super spicy, really fun, and just is kind of like it's so far to the edge of carryover precision value that you can get some really great plays out of it. This is a little weird to me. I think the opponent here is going for like a Yavin play onto this Dragoon, which feels a little awkward. First off, he counts himself, so he didn't need to use all these charges. Just a little bit weird. I think I would have tried to get up in value to try to get at this Hawker Smuggler. It's a little awkward. So here, any of the 4-point units, except for this Enchantress, are going to count as value for a Isengrim. So even though it's not a 5-point unit, the Death Blow doesn't really matter for us. We just need to get the removal. We don't have any Treants here, so we're just going ahead and removing him, just continuing to stack up the boost onto our cards. The Sheldon just looking really, really perky. And I don't want to get rid of him, even though, we're probably going to kill the biggest unit that the opponent has anyway. I don't want to get rid of him because he is, the boost counts as points. So, again, like right now, he's going to do 7 points of damage, which is going to be as much as Elias is ever going to get to. But he's just so valuable. So the other thing here, too, I need to decide. I'm guessing this might be a Great Oak. So we're just going to go for Heat Wave onto Elias. We're going to get big removal from Skaggs anyway, but I want to get that extra boost onto Herald Gord, so playing the Heat Wave and then the Isengrims is going to be the best way to find value. There's the Isengrim, unsurprisingly, Elven decks or Elven decks or Elven decks. Not a whole lot of ingenuity that goes into them. So we're going for Council here onto Herald Gord. He gets pre-boosted by 2, all the way up to 19. This Sappers is looking like the best target for the Sheldon Skaggs. We might see a Great Oak come down here. And we still have this Phoenix that we haven't yet transformed, so finding really, really good value out of all of our codes. There's the Great Oak. I think this is a little awkward to go for the damage, but it is smart to anticipate a Skaggs play. And there we go. Get massive value out of our Sheldon Skaggs. Converting the Phoenix and playing the rounds exactly how we wanted them. I think the opponent stilted a little bit. Typically with Elves, you really, really do want to push first round. Just take it out as many cards as you can, and then drop your Idea down round 2, whether you've won or lost, to get out that scenario in just 2 cards with crazy tempo, and either 2-0 your opponent, which is my preferred method of playing it, or preserve card advantage, if not gain double card advantage over your opponent. But I hope you guys enjoyed this deck. As you just saw, it performs pretty well, especially when you get the draws. But let me know if you have comments, if you have thoughts for future videos or tweaks to this deck. I would love to see those. Join the Discord to share your constant ongoing stream of consciousness with the rest of us in this wonderful Gwent community. Follow on Twitch to watch me record these live and play other ultra spicy decks we don't even record because they just get losses. But you can enjoy my losses and see some of these crazy fun plays. But until next time, good luck on the path. Get out there. Keep on Gwenting.